How's everyone doing today? I just want to kind of formally introduce myself, talk a little bit about some of the things that I aspire to do in the near future, and maybe get some traction on some followers, maybe some insight on some people that can help me edit and help me create something that I've been wanting to do for a while. So, long story short, I'll just kind of start with a quick introduction. My name is Kyle. I'm 38 years old. I am from Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I am a manager for a cell phone store in the area. I work for corporate. What inspired me to do this is just kind of seeing the state of the world, seeing a lot of the divide, and wanting to somehow try and fix that divide in some way, shape, or form. I feel like if we call out certain behaviors and kind of stick true to who we are as human beings and get back to loving thy neighbors. I'm not much of a biblical person. I've had conversations recently, and I think a lot of what the Bible and some of what religion does teach us can be directly applied to our lives in one way, shape, or form that will help make it better. And I might use some of those teachings to kind of allude to some of the behaviors that I'm talking about. But at the end of the day, my goal is to try and, I don't want to say de-radicalize, but just kind of call out certain behaviors I'm seeing from people, whether it be my timeline, other people's social media platforms, things like that. Maybe call out politicians or lawyers or judges or whatever the situation may be. I'm going to throw in some fun there too. I'm very much into like movies and music and sports. So I might have some TED Talks about, some of my thoughts and opinion on some pop culture stuff as well, and maybe just get some more engagement from people within those communities, as well as, maybe get them to kind of convert over to a more centrist way of thinking and not be so radical. I feel like a lot of radicalism is going on in this world, and my view is to try and help mitigate that and navigate to a more centric way of viewing, because I feel like the radicalism, like I said, is kind of dividing this country. And I just want to put good out in the world. That's, at the end of the day, I do want to put good out in the world. I want to, like I said, love thy neighbor, and get back to, having block parties with people who have differing opinions, start a dialogue. You might not like the gentleman, but Charlie Kirk, I think he had a great way of tackling people with differing opinions, and you might not agree with everything that he did, but I think he was challenging people's mindsets and what he thought was true. And while I don't aim to kind of ruffle feathers, I just want to kind of be the person that says, call out this behavior, like, let's just say like a politician, like that Virginia governor or mayor, that lady that was just elected, and that other guy that was just elected in, I don't know if it was Virginia. You're gonna have to, forgive me for that, but basically just like calling for violence against their political opponents. And I think that just becomes like, when do we get here as a society? When do we get here as a people that we accept these things and then we elect those people? Like, I understand people might have some views and opinions about our president as well, and that might be justifiably so. I think that no side is all sunshine and rainbows. Both sides, this two-party system is a part of the reason why we are so divided as a country, and a lot of it stems from their behaviors and encouraging their fan bases to be up in everyone's faces. And if they don't agree with their opinion and the way that they see the world, it kind of doesn't have that dialogue back and forth where, hey, this is how I view it, and then the other side's supposed to say, well, this is how I view it, and we're supposed to find common ground. That's what we're supposed to do as human beings, as a society, and as a constitutional republic, is to find some middle common ground that kind of goes to both sides, that is like, that's a fair compromise. And there's just none of that going on. And you can kind of go back to this whole SNAP thing, and the Democrats are voting no because they aren't getting people, more medical benefits to people who are illegal immigrants, and there's other stuff on that bill that might not go kind of all the way to the left and what their ideologies might believe. And the people on the right, they all, for the most part, I want to say they all voted yes, and they're just trying to open the government and possibly get people their benefits, but at the same time, they're not willing to compromise either. So I think everyone's kind of pointing the finger right now with things like that, and it's impacting people's livelihoods. And either side of the aisle wants to come to the middle and just try and try to shake a hand and like, hey, let's get this done. Let's get the people back to their benefits, because there's a lot of struggling Americans that are trying to just survive, and being the government is shut down, it's not a good time for these people. They're struggling to put food on the table, and whatever your beliefs are, I mean, there's a lot of people on SNAP that do work. There's a lot of people that abuse the SNAP system, and they're capable of working, they just don't want to because they like to live off the government. It does work both ways, and I think calling out that both sides are kind of right in some regard, and kind of coming to the middle, be like, okay, I see that, and be like, okay, what can we do about it? Like, that's the piece of the puzzle we got to get to. We're so stuck up in our ways where we're pointing the finger at the other side of the aisle and going, hey, you need to do this because this is what my side believes, and you are impacting people getting their benefits, and the other side going, no, it's your party that's voting no, and like that you play this blame game. And I think that is a big part of the division in this country. Again, my goal is to try and find that middle ground, have conversations with people that have those differing opinions, and maybe have two different people with differing opinions, and maybe moderate and mitigate that. I don't know. I'm just kind of throwing stuff out there right now just to see what kind of traction I have, what kind of people want to follow me, and maybe I'll create like a YouTube channel, just upload that stuff, throw it on the social medias, and see what happens. At the end of the day, my whole goal is to, hey, at least I tried something, and if it doesn't take off, it doesn't take off. To be transparent, I'm not in this for money. I already have a house, I have a family. If I make money from it, cool. I probably want to do some stuff like donating back to charities and communities, and maybe giving back to some people who are in need. And I think that's where we as a community can kind of come together and be like, hey, here's somebody that has a centrist way of viewing things and doesn't want to be on one side or the other of the political spectrum. And like I said, I have my own thoughts and opinions, and I'll be very transparent. I do lean a little bit more right. I don't think that everything on the right is great. I don't think everything on the left was great, or there's some policies on that side of the aisle too that might make common sense. And I feel like having all in one way, all the other way, that just doesn't get anything done. I mean, both sides have some great arguments on certain talking points, and sometimes it's so far out there, I'm going, what are we doing? It's just out of the realm of common sense. So again, my goal is to just kind of try to create something in a space for people who are just as frustrated as I am, create a community of people who I can kind of rally behind and rally with me, and try to do something for this country, to try to have impactful conversations, to try and call out the behaviors, to see what's going on in the world, and try to make a positive impact on just thoughts. I mean, again, if it gets to a point where maybe I can donate my time, my efforts, maybe some money to try and help those in need, and find some some networking and some resources that will allow me to directly impact people, I'm all for that. Being in Sioux Falls, I'm kind of new to the area. I've only been here for a couple of years. I live in Lennox, South Dakota, so it's just right outside that Sioux Falls area. And if there's something in the area that will help me directly impact people's lives that that are struggling, I might want to get involved in something like that too. At the end of the day, I'm blessed to kind of have the life that I have and the family that I have, and to be financially stable enough to be able to not have to worry about where my next meal is going to come from. And I can honestly say that I've never really had to deal with something like that, but I understand the struggle. I do understand, people can't afford their livelihoods. People can't afford certain things in this world. And, some of it is just laziness. Let's just call it what it is. There's some people that want to be a victim. There's some people that want to live off the system, and, they just don't want to do anything for themselves, and they just get caught in this loop of, I am owed this, or some sort of, like, I don't want to call them sociopaths, but some of that ideology and that thinking is just like, I'm entitled to this, I deserve this, I don't want to work, I can just continue to work off the system. And on the other side of it, there's got to be some sort of, like, we got to cut those people off. right? That's one of the first things I wanted to kind of tell, like, people that are able to work that just don't want to get a job. I feel like they, it's going to be a hard struggle to get them to do the things they need to do to contribute to society. I mean, I work my butt off to provide the life for my family. I work my butt off to provide, the nicer things in life. And I do think that nothing in this world should be given. The exception to the rule are, mothers. So like single mothers, obviously they need some help. I think that's something like for kids. Kids is a very big thing for me. If I see a kid struggling, it breaks my heart. And however I can directly impact those mothers, those kids, I'm going to get involved. That's not to say there's also single dads out there, and I don't want to say that they're entitled to anything either, but maybe we can give them a hand as well. As well as far as going to like food stamps and things like that, and SNAP and WIC and all that stuff, I think those programs are great. I just think that their systems being abused by people who are able to work, but they'd rather be at home, not make a living for themselves. And I understand the state of the world. I mean, people are losing jobs, people are, the government being shut down, the cost of everything's increasing, so it's tough to get that minimum wage job and things like that. But at least try. At least try to, hey, there's a certain quota that you gotta put out there for like applications, and if you get this job, we'll help you for on the back end. So it's not all like we're not going to give you $400 or $500 worth of this stuff for a week. But at the end of the day, like, hey, okay, you're going to make $300 a week. We'll give you an extra $150. We'll work with you on that. Like, I think that's what these programs are supposed to be designed for. I think that's a good middle ground to where, hey, you get back to work. We'll help you with this if you continue to do this and be a productive member to society. But they can't just look to get fired. I know there's a lot of people that I've been a part of some interviews, being part of the hiring process, where I've offered someone a job, trying to help them out, and they go, nope, I don't want to take that job because I make more money living off the government. I'm just here because I need to be in order to collect a paycheck. Now, that's not something that happened here in South Dakota. That was in New York. But as long as you're applying, they don't really care. They're just seeing that you're applying. And I think that's the flaw in the system. And again, I might have got a little off tangent. I just kind of wanted to talk a little bit about my views and opinions, and maybe some of the things that we could do to kind of mitigate some of these SNAP and WIC and things like that. And that's just my opinion on the matter. And if you have a differing opinion, I'm willing to hear you out, because maybe there's something in there that might be more beneficial to the American people that are struggling. Who knows? But I want to kind of turn my attention over to other things. Like, hey, I'm a big sports guy, so we talked a little bit about politics, and that's kind of the big reason why I'm starting this channel. But I also got a big sports brain. I'm big into Atlanta Falcons. One of the first Super Bowls I watched was the Denver Broncos and the Atlanta Falcons back in, I want to say it was '97. And I kind of picked the team that was red, and I was like, cool, I like that team. I'm going to follow them, and they're got to be good. I'll follow them, and it's been Heartbreak City ever since. So that's something that, I'm a passionate fan through thick and thin, the highs, the lows. Never experienced a Super Bowl, been there once in my lifetime, and it was Heartbreak City. The 28-3, I can already, see the comment section with the 28-3 if anybody wants to comment on that, and I get that. The other side of it is, if you want to talk about more tragedy in my sports world, Mavericks fan. I'm a Dallas Mavericks fan. The Luka Doncic trade, I was very, I won't say upset, but I was definitely in my feels about that, and I think that was a very miserable trade for the fan base, and I think it was what are we doing, as far as a GM and an owner and things like that. I think this is someone that's entering their prime, someone that is, a young person that was loyal to the city of Dallas, and that someone that wanted to be in Dallas and then just gets traded overnight for the most injury-prone player and let's call it injury-prone superstar in all of sports. So I was in my feels about that, and if you follow basketball this year, you'll see that the AD is already hurt, and Luka is thriving. So it's tough being a Mavericks fan right now. Getting Cooper Flag kind of sewed a little bit of those wounds, but it's still a struggle. I do watch the occasional baseball World Series. It was a great World Series this year. I don't really have any teams on that. Growing up in New York, I was a Yankees fan for a little bit. big on players in the MLB. I was growing up. I was a big Jeter guy, a big Tulowitzki guy. In my little league years, I was a shortstop, and then in my later years, I turned into an outfielder. Didn't really like the outfield. You kind of saw a little bit of the action every once in a while. You get a ball hit at you, but at least at the shortstop position, you directly impact a lot of plays. You're a cutoff man. You're turning double plays. Someone's trying to steal a base. You're more involved, and I feel like you have more control over the game, and that was part of the big reason why I like playing shortstop. I like watching hockey. I think that's a man's sport. That is one of the most brutal physical sports I've ever seen play, and I think it's number one, you're on skates. You're not like running around, so you have to have two aspects of it. You gotta skate and be a proficient skater, and on the other side of it, you have to be able to control a puck, your positionings, getting back on defense, breakaway goals, beating a goalie in a one-on-one. There's so many technical things in hockey that I think we as Americans kind of underappreciate, because football is your biggest sport, NBA is another one of those big sports, and then it kind of goes into your MLBs and your your NHLs. But growing up, I was big into volleyball. I played volleyball for 20 something years. I want to say 22 years of my life, 23, something like that. Very, very good at it. Played in high school. Got to a state championship, won our section all 3 years I played on varsity. I played club ball after the fact, had a pretty decent career there, played with a lot of friends after that, just went to nationals a couple years, and that was always a good experience. And there's one year that I went for my bachelor party. It was just kind of a throwaway thing, and we ended up doing really good. I think we were like 5th or 6th or something like that out of like 70, 80 teams, which is kind of one of those tip of the cap career kind of milestones that I had. But at the end of the day, I do love sports. I'm a very competitive person. You can see this TV right here. It's rather a monitor. So this is my my gaming setup. I have my computer here, my PlayStation right over here. I do stream here and there. I do enjoy playing video games. Big on first-person shooters. I love Mortal Kombat. It's one of my favorite games to play. Those fighter games too. Street Fighter's not bad. Tekken's not bad, but I've been a Mortal Kombat guy. Battlefield 6 is a big game I'm playing right now. I'm trying to just kind of, I've been on that Call of Duty grind for a hot minute, and I'm kind of getting away from it. It just kind of seems like, they try to continue to create skill gaps, and for the average, person that works 40, 45 hours a week and then comes home, has a family, and then you hop on, these young kids are cracked out of their minds, and it's tough to keep up with that and be competitive. At least Battlefield, I feel like it's a little bit more kind of fair and balanced, as opposed to, jump into Warzone, and, I do usually do okay, but usually get late in the game and it gets a little chaotic, and then that's where I start getting fried. And that's just, lack of time, lack of energy to try and play those games. But, as you get older, your reaction time slows down a little bit, and some of that talent drops off, and I'm aware of that. Being competitive, it kind of makes me upset sometimes, but it is what it is. And the last thing I want to kind of discuss is kind of entertainment. So that's going to be another thing I touch up on, maybe some current events for, not really going to get into like celebrity lives and things like that, but just like, hey, maybe a movie review. I'm big into horror. You can kind of see like Being Halloween over in the corner there. I have like the Jack Skellington and the Sally, and I have a Scream Mask up here. I'm going to show you. I'm big into horror, so there's Art the Clown right over there. Sorry, it's kind of a little blurry there, but that's an animatronic I got this year, and something I wanted to do to decorate my room, and here I am struggling to get my stuff back, so I apologize for that. But yeah, I'm big into horror. Some of my favorite movies are like the John Wick movies. I love action movies. I'm a DC guy, but some of those Marvel movies are pretty appealing. They haven't really made a good movie since, I think, Infinity War. Some people say Endgame. I think Endgame's a little overrated. They just kind of like, oh yeah, by the way, time travel, ha! And it just like, there was nothing leading to that, and it was just like, this is the only way we can do this kind of thing. And that kind of was a little disappointing to me. For the continuity, they just dropped it in there, and then that was it. What else? I mean, that's basically it. I'm big into music. I'm a metal guy. There's some guitars over there in the corner. I played drums in a band for a hot minute. Want to get back into that a little bit, maybe get like an electronic kit. I play guitar here and there. I play a lot of like rock and like Chevelle and Breaking Benjamin, 3 Days Grace, a lot of those kind of I don't want to say metal, but like hard rock bands. And I do dabble into some metal with like August Burns Red and We Came as Romans, and Air is another one that I'm really big into. So I have a kind of a wide variety. Sometimes I get into some like EDM, things like that, and usually the only music you don't hear me listening to is country. It just never really appealed to me. I think that the music in itself is a little depressing, and I like to listen to the music that has a little bit more upbeat, and then the message is pretty nice, and or maybe something that I've gone through. So back in my early years, I was big into Bring Me the Horizon. I feel like, the guy was mentally, the Ali, he's the lead singer there, he was a little mentally, writing some of those lyrics a little kind of loopy, and I feel like in my early years I was kind of a little, a lost soul, and I feel like that's his words and his, what he's saying about was like being lost, finding himself, and that was a lot of, what brought me to who I am today. In my younger years, I had that victim mentality, as, felt like I was owed everything. And I didn't really want to work a lot. I just wanted to go have fun and party and have a good time, and then later on, once, I wanted to settle down and have kids and everything like that, my perspective on the world changed, and I didn't like the person that I was. And a lot of that stemmed from music and just understanding myself and being self-aware of the person I was becoming. So I really wanted to kind of step back, reevaluate myself, and recreate myself into someone who I think was going to be a productive member of society. I've had my fair share of flaws in my past. I've always tried to do right by the people in my community. I stayed clear of the people who I thought had negative behaviors, and I just tried to continue to build my skill set. So right now I'm really focused on my career. I'm really focused on putting positive out in the world, and then just kind of, I don't want to say make up for, because I don't think I really did anything too wrong earlier on in life. I never really took advantage of anybody, but I definitely wasn't aware of, my surroundings. I definitely was a little loose-lipped in, in certain regards, and not like that I was like racism or anything like that, but, just being very vocal about my thoughts and opinions, and being more passionate about them to where I wouldn't hear anybody else's arguments. I thought I was right. And, I got humbled one day and kind of did some self-reflecting and decided that I wanted to better my life and continue to put positive out in the world, and I just never knew how to do that, and this is an avenue that I want to try. Life isn't always sunshine and rainbows. And I've had my fair share of dark days, and I've gone through my fair share of struggles. Never to the point where I was homeless, or to where I, couldn't put food on the table, but just mental struggles, just like everyone else in this world. And I think that's just something that I can associate with people, and like I said, I'm kind of being vulnerable here, just trying to throw something out there that will hopefully stick, and I can create a community of people, and maybe create like a Discord, and like create some social medias and things like that, and have some dialogue with some people who are like-minded, who want to share their story, and maybe connect with some of those people and put good back out in the world, because I think we all know the world definitely needs it now, and it's just something that I really, really struggle with, is just seeing the decay of this country, the decay of, not loving that neighbor, and just the consistent divide, and it starts from the top down. I just wanted to give a brief intro. This is just something that's been weighing heavy on my mind, and the first step to this stuff is, I had all the equipment, right? I have everything here. I'm blessed enough to kind of be able to afford some of this stuff, but I have to kind of just start with making that first video. I got to make that first video. I got to post it, and then I got to be consistent with it, and then find the people that are like-minded to me, who want to join me on my journey, and maybe we can connect with those people and hear their stories, and and then we can kind of create a dialogue, and then we can continue to grow the community together. I'm not above anybody else. I'm not trying to be a figurehead or try to gain any sort of power or political influence or anything like that. That's not my prerogative here. If I do get enough traction, maybe one day I'll run for office, and I have my own ideologies, but I think that I would make someone good because I can hear all sides of the argument and maybe formulate a pretty good opinion on, maybe implement some sort of policy rather on something that might directly impact positively in people's lives. And that's an avenue that I've entertained before, but I think step one for me is just maybe put good back out in the world, create a community of people who might want to follow this journey, be a part of that journey, share their story, and then maybe we can build something that creates traction to where we can create some good and call out behaviors and have an open dialogue and encourage people to not be so closed-minded, because I feel like that is one of the biggest things in this world is everyone has their thoughts and opinions. Their opinion's right. They feel like they have the moral high ground, and their thoughts and opinions are just, that's it. They're closed-minded. They don't want to hear anybody else. That's all it is. And a lot of that is politically related. And then it kind of does trickle into other aspects like sports and entertainment and other things like that, which, sports is very much just an entertainment industry. It has very little to do with the world we live in. Now, it does, you do have your, political stuff that they have in those, like the NFL has like the stuff in that end racism and stuff like that in their end zone, and that's all well and good. I mean, the messaging there is good. I don't disagree. I think racism does need to end. I think, people need to be more courteous to each other, and if you don't agree with people's lifestyle, just leave them alone. I'm very live and let live, and I think if everybody followed that simple philosophy, that we would be a lot better as a society today. But I do feel like I rambled a little bit more than I wanted to, but just throwing this out there, putting this out there for the world to see. Maybe we'll get a little bit more hands-on, go deep dive into some internet stuff, maybe have some guests on and create some videos with people who want to share their story, and then kind of go from there. But step one, like I said, is put this out in the world, see what kind of traction we get, and then see what we can do to continue to grow. And if it creates traction, awesome. If not, this is just my own little TED Talk. This is just me making an attempt to make the world a better place, to maybe not radicalize or de-radicalize people who, maybe that are in my community, that are people that are, I don't want to say lost, but they're so wrapped up in identity politics and just regurgitating the talking points from their, Democrat or Republican, MAGA, whatever you want to call them, those leaders over there, whatever talking points that they have, and then maybe they can see that there's another way of doing things, and maybe they'll be more open-minded and having a dialogue and creating some sort of middle ground, and we can get back to a spot in society to where we, we're a little bit more together. It doesn't matter the color of your skin, doesn't matter the credence, it's just the content of your character. And just, like I said, live and let live. And, don't be a negative person. I want to end every single one of my videos with some sort of positive message. And for this one, it's just be good people. Don't try to slander anybody. Don't try to, speak out of fact. Stick to the facts, stick to the principles. You can be passionate about what you believe in, but you do it in a place of respect, and I think that's a good place for us to start. So, sorry for the long video, but I just wanted to put that out there, and I appreciate everyone who watches this. And if you want to join my journey, maybe that next video I'll have some socials, I'll have some sort of YouTube, or I'll have to figure something out. But for right now, I just wanted to put this out there, and just it all starts with the first video. So this is what I'm doing. So thanks for stopping by.